I think Alex going 5 rounds with this guy and outpointing him and beating him in these positions to where everybody gives so much credit to Islam would be, in my eyes, tremendous for Alex and tremendous for his legacy.
The AllStar app, the #1 app in the business. UFC, Bellator, One Championship, PFL, and more. Get the app right now. Link in description. Bang Tao, MMA, repping, heavy. What's going on, Frank? It's a
What's going
beautiful
on,
day out
bro?
there.
Listen, you don't get many beautiful days in Australia because this place is a bit of a cesspool, but I got to give it to him. Shell Cove, Shell Harbor is, in my opinion, the staple of Australia. Beautiful day. 5-minute walk from the marina. Got about a 12-minute walk down the Shell Cove Beach. It's very nice. So fortunate that Alex put us up in a spot, put all the training partners in a house out here, about 12, 15 minutes from the gym. So train in the morning, come back, eat, relax a bit, go back train in the evenings. But for the downtime, this is where we all are, and it's a nice area, man. It is a very nice and upcoming area. Can't say the same about Windang, but hopefully one day it'll get to this point to where Shell Cove is.
For sure. And you said all the training partners are in one house. Like, who is part of this camp, man? This is an extensive camp. You guys went across different countries.
Yeah, well, we have Malarkey's on the card. Jamie Malarkey's fighting. He comes down here usually every camp to get some work in as well. So this is where he's here now as well. Brad Riddell just got back. Brad was here for a bit and then left and then came back. Brad's not staying here. He's actually with Volk, but Brad's here. It's great to have him. Craig just got in. It's great to have Craig back. He's back for the last couple of weeks. He was here for about 3 weeks earlier. And then Craig brought one of his boys with him, who's from the States as well, grappler/wrestler. Obviously, the Golden Boy Kobe's here. He's got the master bedroom. He's living it up. He scored that for 3 months. Good on him. And then Ryan. Ryan's a black belt/wrestler from New York. So Ryan's over here as well. So yeah, went outside the box a bit for a couple guys, but for the most part, you try to keep the same team around and stuff like that, same energy. Everybody knows each other. Everybody can give shit to each other without people getting offended, because that's what you don't want is people getting all offended on that. So to be fair, you got to have pretty thick skin to hang around the boys and stuff like that. Some people can handle it, some people can't, but it's good to have everybody around. Even some of the guys that fight like on Eternal, stuff like that. There's another show that's a couple weeks after Vault where a couple of the boys are fighting on that. Chelsea Hackett, she's down here doing some training. She's fighting in the PFL. So it's a good size group with everybody kind of have fights within about 2 weeks of each other, which is nice.
It's getting busy for freestyle, right?
It is getting busy. They also do they do other classes as well. They do the jiu-jitsu. Um, they do some MMA, excuse me. They do some striking, some circuit type training, for fitness and that. So, Joe Lopez definitely has tried to corner the market with everything. Typical Joe. But now listen, Joe Lopez Abuelo has been in this area. He's from Windang, Wollongong, so he's been here his whole life, and he's had a big hand in like the martial arts scene. Even before Volk came on the scene, Joe's had his hands in some of the stuff that goes on throughout this area, and yeah, he's seen a lot. He was a black belt, and then he did some other stuff. So he's probably forgotten more about MMA and that stuff than I'll know. So
Now, let's talk about the fight, man. UFC
sure.
284. You guys are heading over to Perth. Volkanovski, Makhachev. It's an interesting fight. To say the least, it's an interesting fight, man. Just styles and just the momentum both these guys bring into the fight. There's so many aspects, right? There's so many like narratives heading into this fight. Like, what do you see in this fight, and what makes you most excited about this?
What I see in this fight is two athletes, not only two fighters, but two very good athletes that are both at the top of their division, and and that are good everywhere. I know Islam is a good wrestler, good grappler, but he's also good on his feet. He's no slouch on his feet. Uh, Alex's fight IQ, um, and the way he can control things distance wise and everything on his feet, he really stands out. But also, he's no slouch in the wrestling and the grappling department. So, you know, one of these guys is strength. To the other one, they may say it's a weakness, but it's not necessarily that way. I could see this fight being put in several different positions, as far as several different scenarios that could play out. Like I said, very rarely, very seldomly do you get a number one and a number two pound for pound to have a fight. I don't know when the last time something like this has happened, but this is something that like you don't come across very often. This is a fight to where Volk's put himself in a position in the featherweight division to where he's been given the opportunity to go up, and that's a credit to him and his team and his work ethic and what he was able to do in his division. So he's able to go up and prove a point yet once again. And to prove this point, you have a very talented Islam, standing in front of you. So um, they say styles make fights, and these two guys, with the way their styles are and how dominant they've been in their weight classes, is gonna make for a good show for the fans, I believe.
Yeah, you make a great point about him being number one pound for pound and Islam being number two. I don't think we've ever seen that in the history of the UFC ever.
No, I don't believe we have. I think Volk's last fight. I believe he was the number two pound for pound, and he fought Holloway. Holloway was, I could be off, but he was around five or six, somewhere in there. So, and again, that was impressive in itself that those two were in the same weight and they were able to make it happen. But this I guess is going to be something different when you have the number one, number two. I guess it's just the way it lined up, the way that it fell, the timing. Timing's everything in the sport, and the timing couldn't have got any better. Volk was making his run at 145 and leaving his mark in the history books in that division. And like I said, he was given the opportunity for this, and Islam was going through the division and doing what he had to do. He took out, submitted Charles Oliveira, who was, red hot at the time, who was on a roll himself. So Islam's dangerous. Not to say that Volk isn't dangerous either, So I'm very excited for this fight. It's shaking out to be a really good card. You have a lot of the fellow other Aussies on the card. You got Malarkey, you got the Ooses, Tyson, Tafa, Junior, and Justin. So that's exciting. You got Loma on the card. Coming over from Thailand. So it's going to be exciting for her. She's going to be able to hang around the boys a bit and see a bit of the Australian culture, which is awesome. Some of the other Aussies, Jack Della, I believe, Josh is on the card as well. So
You've done many championship camps with Volkanovski. How different does he feel when you spar with him with that extra weight? Because I feel like that extra weight is going to be a big key factor.
yeah, he definitely feels more. He definitely feels much thicker, more solid. His S&C coach has done down in Baymed. They've done a great job with him, as far as putting his strength on. Adding a bit of weight. Jordy, fight dietitian, has done a great job with his diet as far as adding the proper calories where it needed to be added. Um, Not getting him too big, but keep him at a weight to where he can feel good and he can move. And then when it comes time to trim down a bit or to get his weight down just a bit to where he needs to be, to where he can still move and he's still fast on his feet and he still feels light, and he's fighting at an optimal weight to where he feels best. And yeah, it's always been difficult sparring Alex. his fight IQ, like I've said before, and kind of the way he can make his reads and stuff, is not easy task to try to follow, you know. And I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm fucking, you know, a Mike Tyson in myself, but you know, I found myself trying to shoot much more on him. Um, doesn't necessarily mean that's a good thing because it always doesn't end well for me for the most part. But you know, try to put him in these positions where he'll find himself, wrestle out of these positions, and you know, stopping the takedown. But also, when we do, if we do get taken down, you know, getting to where we need to be and get back to our feet. And, um, he's got, you know, he's always had a great tool set, but I think this camp, he's very driven, he's very switched on with how he's going about his things. You know, could definitely tell there's a bit of a different aurora in the air.
You know, I've talked to Volk about this as well, about him when he met you and where his wrestling was compared to like his wrestling now. It's just like 10 times better. And you've experienced it yourself firsthand, you know, coaching him and then as well as sparring him. Just take us through that evolution a little bit.
Yeah, like I said, when I first met Volk, it was probably 4.5 years ago, 5 years ago. Um, and when we would wrestle, I'm not going to say that I kind of like did what I want, but you know, I was able to get to score points and stuff like that. Was able to ride him and keep him down, you know, easier than what I do now. And just over the years, you know, he just picked up things, you know, and then it got to the point to where some of my old tricks that I would do just don't work anymore on him. Like I found myself getting in these positions to where, and before when I would have, you know, 2, 3 different exit strategies, you know, that window shut, and that window shut a long time ago. So, um, whether it's defense, whether it's offense, you know, whatever it is, like he always surprises me with the stuff that he can do when it comes to wrestling. From you know, and again, it's credit to Alex because he's always wanted to work at it. It's something he's consistently wanted to work on, work at, whether it's like I said, you know, takedowns or defense or stuff from top, getting off bottom. You know, these certain positions that we work. He's no stranger to them. Um, yeah, so the evolution's been good. Obviously now it's much more difficult to wrestle him and stuff like that. So that's why sometimes you gotta have a bigger body to do that. So you could stand from the outside and watch and realize, damn, he has gotten heaps, you know, tremendously better. And it's not just from me; it's also from you know other people that he's wrestled. You know, when he's at CKB, Andre does great with him. You know, when Craig's here, Craig wrestles and grapples a bit with him. When he's in Thailand, the boys wrestle with him. You know, whether it's Merrick or Anzar or George and a couple other guys. So I think when you're able to have different body styles and different body types, that always is going to help you also because the more you experience that, the more situations you put yourself into, the more you'll be ready for. You know, because anytime you wrestle somebody, or same thing with sparring, somebody different, you might see something you've never seen before. You know, so yeah, like I said, it's been good. It's been a good process. Fast forward 5 years, here we are now. You know, in a position where he's able to do this. So it's been great, man. I've enjoyed it.
How was the time with Merbek and Anvar?
Anjar, it was good. Like I said, you know, I met Merabik back in 2015. The first time I ever went to Thailand, I met him, and he's just a great person, great human to be around. He's always backed the boys. You know, he's been one of the boys. You know, Woody, Alex, George. They've known each other longer than I've known them, and now that we have our own gym, he supports it, comes up, brings his boys, and they were you know willing to offer a hand. And again, he's had a great relationship with Vault for years. You know, they used to train together. They used to wrestle together, spar together a bit. So they know each other. They're familiar with each other. Um, it's always you know courtesy when they're together. So to have him around at the time when he was at the camp was good, um, because he's no stranger to very good wrestling. Merrick, where he comes from in Chechnya, is probably the best in the world of a pocket for wrestling, and the guys that he brings and he has around him on a daily basis, doing it since they were you know very very young. So they're all They're all good at it.
Yeah. When you look at what Maribek has done and like the level of training that he's done around the world, especially with the grappling and wrestling, it's a great addition to that camp.
Of course. He spent a lot of time wrestling for Team Azerbaijan, which was, they took third at the Rio Olympics, years ago. And even a lot of guys from his hometown are Olympic or world champs. So, if there's good wrestling around, usually Maribek knows about it.
Are you guys heading over to CKB for this camp?
Um, Not that I know of. I haven't heard any word about it. I know Brad's here and that. So I'm assuming we'll link up with the boys from there when we get to Perth because, I know they have Shane Young fighting on the card. I know Tyson's finishing his camp there. So we'll probably link up with them when we get to Perth.
What do you think about this whole like Khabib not being in this corner situation?
I think at the end of the day, I think Khabib's human. Um, I think probably when he was competing, he spent a lot of time away from home while he was still, fighting for the UFC, in different pockets of the world, whether it was America, whether it was Dubai, the UAE. And I think when he turned over his role as a coach, he probably hit the ground running and was doing the same type of thing, coaching and doing all that. And, when you coach and stuff like that and you travel and you're all over the place, it can get a bit tiring, I imagine. It can get a bit tedious, excuse me. But especially if you have a family, I think if you have a family, he's got a couple children and a wife and that. So I know his family's probably important to him. So I think when you probably watch your kids grow up and stuff like that. I don't have any kids. I have a niece and a nephew, and I've been away several times. My niece is just getting bigger and bigger. And when you do get back, you realize, even if it's about 4 or 5 weeks, you're like, damn, man, she's talking more, she's doing this, she's doing that. So like they are growing up before your eyes. And I think with him, he probably, wanted to realize, he wanted to take a step away, kind of breathe easy a bit and probably just spend some time with his family, focus on his family a bit. I do think that he'll be back. He'll probably get back to the coaching. He probably just might need a bit of a break, but regardless, Islam will have good coaches there as well. I know Mendez, Javier is a great coach who have some of his other boys there as well. So, um, yeah, I think that, Khabib probably just came to a point to where he was like, this is getting a bit too much. I kind of need to step back and evaluate a couple of things. And, you know, fair one to him. He had a stable full of really, really good fighters. I know he has his club there in Dagestan that's full of a lot of talent. So he's probably not far off, to be fair. You know what I'm saying? He's probably up there training with him in that, but he just might not travel with him. You know what I'm saying? But everybody has their priorities and their prerogatives, and his was probably his family at the moment.
This fight, man, it could go 100 different ways, right? It's just we don't know until these guys step into the cage. There's so many questions. What would be the type of fight you want to see between these guys?
Um, Obviously, you want to see a knockout. You want to see Alex get the knockout or stop him. That would be tremendous. But I think Alex going 5 rounds with this guy and outpointing him and beating him in these positions to where everybody gives so much credit to Islam would be, in my eyes, tremendous for Alex and tremendous for his legacy. You know what I'm saying? As far as beating him on his feet, getting if he gets taken down, getting away, but also maybe getting a takedown or reversal or controlling him or keeping him on the cage or making this guy really really have to work for these positions and dragging the fight out and Alex using his IQ and his speed on his feet. I think that to me is if you can do that for 5 rounds and win significantly that way is a much better statement than getting maybe a stoppage. Not saying that wouldn't be tremendous; it would be tremendous. But some people could say, "Oh, this happened," but he was losing or he was winning this when this happened. But what can they say if he beats him in almost every round? Can't really say much. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, if you outclass somebody in the cage for 25 minutes, it's hard to argue.
Can't argue with that. You can't argue with something of a masterclass performance.
February 11th, UFC 284. You'll be in the corner for the main event between Alex Volkanovski and Islam Makhachev. Go in the descriptions, download the AllStar app. Frank, appreciate the time, man, and good
Always,
luck
bro.
on the rest of the camp.
Too easy. Thank you, my man.
There you go. There you go.